Every Sunday evening, as the sun slipped below the California hills, a family would gather around a small phone on the kitchen counter, the same way others might gather around a dinner table or a TV. For them, connection came not through a screen, but through a voice that crossed oceans and time zones. A voice that reminded them they still had a home waiting. An ocean away. This is Letters from Little Saigon, where every story is a soft whisper from the past, told slowly to help you unwind and remember what truly matters. If you enjoy stories of love, memory, and belonging, please take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let this letter find you tonight. The Nguyen family had lived in California for nearly 20 years, but every Sunday night, their living room still filled with the sounds of home. The scent of simmering broth, the rustle of old newspapers, the gentle hum of the ceiling fan, all of it blended into a quiet, familiar rhythm. At exactly 7 p.m., Mr. Nguyen would pull out his worn black phone book, its corners bent, its pages yellowed, and dial a number written in faded ink. The first few beeps were always followed by a pause, that heartbeat of silence between two worlds. And then, a voice, soft, slightly crackled through the distance. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Even after 20 years, that voice still carried the same warmth. It was his sister, calling from their old family house in Bien. The call would last only 15, maybe 20 minutes. They talked about the weather, the crops, the neighbors. Nothing big, but between every word, there was something unsaid, a kind of comfort in simply hearing each other breathe. In the beginning, those Sunday calls were complicated. The phone connection was bad, the time difference confusing, and international rates expensive. Back then, calling Vietnam wasn't as easy as tapping a screen. It meant long-distance cards bought from a Vietnamese market in Westminster. Bright orange ones, with printed codes so long that Mrs. Nguyen had to write them down in a notebook. The kids, Tommy and Mai, would giggle as their father punched the long sequence of numbers. "Dad, you missed one," they'd tease. And when the call finally went through, they'd gather close, listening to their grandmother's voice through the static. She always asked the same questions. "Have you eaten yet? Are you all healthy?" And even when they answered yes, she would ask again, as if love needed confirmation. Those calls were a ritual, small but sacred. No matter what storms the week brought, bills, homework, long shifts at the nail salon Sunday night meant one thing: calling home. As the years passed, the world grew smaller. The calls got clearer, the internet faster. The children grew up and moved out. Yet, the ritual remained. Now, it was often just Mrs. Nguyen who made the call, sitting by the kitchen window with a cup of tea, watching the sunset bleed into the ocean haze. Her voice softened with the years, but her words carried more than just conversation. They carried longing. "How's the papaya tree?" "Still growing. It's bearing fruit again this year," her sister would reply. Sometimes, silence filled the line, that quiet space where both women knew what the other was thinking. How strange it was to live in two worlds at once. On her side, Mrs. Nguyen looked out the window to see her son's car parked in the driveway, his American life busy and far removed. On the other end, her sister stared at the same furniture their parents had once owned, still in the same places, unchanged. The world outside kept moving, but the call, that weekly moment, stayed timeless. Tommy, now in his 30s, rarely joined the calls. He spoke Vietnamese haltingly, sometimes switching mid-sentence to English. His mother didn't mind. She would hand him the phone and say, "Just say hello." And he would. A few sentences, shy laughter, A polite goodbye, but something inside him stirred each time. That voice, his grandmother's, was fading now, softer than he remembered as a child. When she passed away one spring, the Sunday calls grew quieter. 4 weeks, his parents didn't make them at all. The house felt heavy, like the air itself carried mourning. Then one evening, Tommy came home from work to find his mother dialing again. Her voice trembled slightly, but there was determination in her hands. When his aunt picked up, Mrs. Nugent smiled through tears. "Let's talk," she said softly. "It's Sunday." That night, Tommy listened from the stairs, the same way he had as a boy, and realized the call wasn't just about keeping in touch. It was about keeping something alive. By the late 2010s, video calls replaced phone cards. Now, the whole family could see each other. Cousins waving from Saigon, aunts showing off the new kitchen, the uncle making jokes about American snow. But somehow, Tommy still preferred the old calls. There was something gentler about the static, something honest about hearing a voice without seeing a face. Every time the screen froze or the audio cut out, it reminded him that love, especially love stretched across continents, was fragile. And maybe that was what made it sacred. On one call, his aunt asked, "When will you visit?" Tommy smiled. "Soon," he said, though he didn't know when. But she didn't press. She understood that soon could mean a year or 10. When Tommy had children of his own, he began to call on Sundays again, now to check on his parents, still living in their same quiet house in Orange County. He'd call after dinner, just as his father used to. His mother would answer with the same line, "Have you eaten yet?" And he'd laugh, realizing that even after all these years, the words carried the same comfort as they once did across oceans. Sometimes his kids would join in, asking their grandparents about stories from the old country. And though the details faded, the love never did. Now, when he looked at the clock on Sunday evenings, Tommy didn't just see the time. He saw a thread, invisible but strong, connecting generations. From a small house in BNH, out a living room in California, to wherever his children might end up next. That thread held them together. Years later, long after his parents passed, Tommy sat alone one Sunday night. The house was quiet. The phone on the counter, the same model his father had used decades ago, lay still. He picked it up almost without thinking and scrolled to a contact labeled Home Vietnam. He knew no one would answer. The line had gone silent years ago, but he pressed call anyway. There was no sound, no ring, no voice, just the faint hiss of distance. And in that quiet, he could almost hear them. The laughter, the warmth, the words spoken every Sunday for 20 years. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I'm home now." Thank you for listening to Letters from Little Saigon. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe so more people can find a little warmth and remembrance before they sleep. Because sometimes, all it takes to feel close again is a voice on the other side of the world. See you in the next letter. Goodbye.